So yesterday you learned how to solve one-step equations. Tonight let's learn how to solve two-step equations. This is where you have to do two things in order to isolate your variable. Remember, the whole goal is to get this guy by itself on this side of the equation. So notice I'm going to have to deal with this and this over here. All right. First things first. What is the first thing I'm going to do? I've got two operations going on with my m. I have division, and I've got addition. So which one do you do first? Well, let's think about this. I need to divide. If I do the multiplication first, I'd have to do the whole thing. That's going to get clunky really fast. Let's not worry about that yet. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this guy, because that's the easiest thing to do. So if I have m over 4 plus 2 equals 10, I want to get rid of my 2. So I'm doing addition. What's the inverse? Right, it's subtraction. Remember, what I do to one side, I have to do to both. All right, let's solve. 10 minus 2 is 8. 8 equals m over 4. By the way, make sure that when you're doing these, that you are writing them down and that you're not trying to solve them going across. That's just going to make your life really messy and hard. All right, now hopefully you recognize that positive 2 minus 2 equals 0, so I'm left with m over 4 equals 8. This doesn't look so bad now. Remember that if I have a denominator with my variable on top, that this indicates division. What is the inverse of division? Multiplication. You have to multiply the whole thing by 4, and what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Remember that parentheses beside each other equal multiplication. All right, so 4 times 8 is 32. And notice over here, how do I multiply a whole 4 by m divided by 4? Let's put a 1 under my 4, and now this looks like a regular fraction. Notice that my 4's end up canceling out, and I get 1m. 1m is the same as m, which equals 32. Alright, so far you've looked at things that have a positive variable, but what happens if I end up solving a two-step equation and I have a negative variable? Like here, I'm going to end up with a negative p. Notice that the primary operation I'm doing here is addition, so the opposite of addition is subtraction. Alright, so I'm going to end up subtracting my 8, my constant there. I'm going to get negative p plus 8 minus 8. What I do to one side, I've also got to do to this side. 21 minus 8. All right, 21 minus 8 hopefully is 13. Double check my math there. Plus 8 minus 8 equals 0, and I get negative p. Ruh-roh, I want to get p equals something. I have negative p. Well, let's think about this for a minute. Remember that you can multiply anything by 1. 1p equals p. If 1p equals p, then it should also be true that negative 1p equals negative p. So anytime I see negative p, I want you to think of it as being this hidden 1 that's right there. And so it's this negative 1 I'm multiplying p by. So if I'm multiplying, the inverse of multiplication should be division. So I'm going to end up dividing negative 1p by negative 1. And remember, what I do to this side, I've got to also do over here. All right, so if I have negative 1 divided by 1, those cancel out, and I'm left with just p. So p equals 13 divided by negative 1, which equals negative 13. Remember, positive divided by a negative is always a negative. All right, on your own, I'd like you to turn to page 31 in your note-taking guide. Hopefully you noticed that clue up here, and you've already filled out the example number 2. I would like you to do example number 3 on your own. Pause me when you're ready to check your answers. All right, looking at this example, which side has the variable? Oh, this side. So my variable here, I need to get down to just z equals something. So I've got to deal with this addition component. Hopefully you recognize that this side is the same as negative 5z plus 3. If you have questions about that, look over here. 3 minus 5z. I'm going to rewrite this as an expression using addition, and I have 3 plus negative 5z. Hopefully I remember with addition that it doesn't matter if I do 2 plus 3 or 3 plus 2. The order doesn't matter, so I can rearrange to be negative 5z plus 3. I'm going to do that over here. Negative 5z plus 3 equals 18. Now, looking at this, I cannot do my multiplication here until I deal with this term. Always deal with your addition or subtraction first. So I've got addition going on. The inverse of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to end up subtracting 3 from both sides. All right, so here I'm going to get negative 5z. These end up crossing out. They equal 0. So negative 5z equals 15. Okay, at this point, I've got this negative 5 that I am multiplying by z. So instead of multiplying, the inverse is going to be to divide. But notice I've got to divide by the negative, okay? Negative 5. I'm going to do that over here too, because what I do to one side, I've got to do to the other. And I'm going to end up with z equals positive divided by negative is a negative. 15 divided by 5 is 3. All right, let's just plug this back in and check this. This is my solution. So 3 minus 5z equals 18. And z was negative 3. 3 minus, notice I have negative 15 now equals 18. And when I have two negatives, they end up becoming a positive. 3 plus 15 equals 18. This checks out. My solution is good. All right, on your own now, I would like you to end up doing the check understanding problems. Let's do numbers 2 and 3, 2A through C, and 3. And these are on page 31 of your note-taking guide. Make sure to show your work, all of it. It should look like mine. It should go down and not across. And you should be able to write out all of your steps for me. If you need to do this on a separate sheet of paper too, that is totally fine. We will check these in class tomorrow as part of your homework grade. Let's look at this word problem. Word problems can get tricky. You are ordering tulip bulbs from a catalog. The iris bulbs cost 90 cents each. The shipping charge is $2.50. If you have $18.50 to spend, how many iris bulbs can you order? I think it's always a good idea to highlight exactly the question you're answering, because some want you to just find the equation and some want you to give them an answer. Okay, so I want to know how many iris bulbs I can order. So I'm going to need to find a variable for my iris bulbs. I like to use letters that correspond, so I'm going to use I for the number of iris bulbs. And let's see what else we have up here. Goodness, forgive me. I should be ordering iris bulbs, not tulip bulbs. Okay, so iris bulbs, they also cost 90 cents each. When you see the word each, I want you to immediately think multiplication. Okay, so iris bulbs cost 90 cents each. So I have 0.9 times number of iris bulbs. Each is going to end up being the number. 90 cents is the cost. So if I want to talk about cost, I can always make this C. Okay, the shipping charge. This is important. When I see shipping charge is not something that happens for each iris bulb. It's something that gets added on at the end. So shipping charge should always be an addition. It's never multiplication. So my shipping charge is going to be an additional $2.50, and this is for each order. So if I'm representing this word problem with other words, I'm basically summarizing it as the cost of each iris. I have to multiply by the number of iris bulbs I buy. And I have to add my shipping charge, which was up here. So I have to add that, and that is going to give me my total cost. Now let's look at plugging some numbers in. So if I want to use a variable expression to write this, my total cost equals the cost of each iris. What was the cost of each iris? Let's look back up here. They cost 90 cents each. So 0.9, and I told you each was always going to be a multiplication with a variable. So times, and because I have decimal, I prefer to use parentheses to indicate multiplication. 90 cents times B, the number of bulbs, plus shipping. Because shipping is just an add-on order. It doesn't matter how many bulbs I buy, my shipping is going to be a constant. My shipping is $2.50. Let's look at plugging numbers in now for my equation. My total cost equals 0.9b plus shipping, which was $2.50. I got that from right up here. Okay, so now my word problem says that I have $18.50 to spend. So if I have $18.50 to spend, which variable is that? Is that my number of bulbs, or is that my total cost? Hopefully you recognize that's your total cost. So $18.50 is what I have to work with. And I'm going to set that equal to this problem here. 0.9b plus $2.50. And I now get to solve for the number of bulbs that I can buy if I have $18.50 to work with. All right, pause me and see if you can solve this on your own. And let me know when you're ready to check your work. Okay, welcome back. First thing, I hope you recognize you have to deal with addition before you can deal with multiplication. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to end up subtracting $2.50 from both sides. And you should have something that looks like this. Okay, and hopefully you recognize that these cross out, and I'm left with 0.90b equals 1850 minus 250 is going to give me 16 even. And now I get to divide. Because I'm doing multiplication, 0.90b is the same thing as 0.90 times b. So because I've got multiplication going on, I need to do the opposite. So I am going to divide this side by 0.90 because that's going to cross out and leave me just B. And over here, I need to divide this side by 0.90. Remember, my goal is to get B by itself on this side to know what it's equal to. So my B is going to be equal to, hopefully you plugged this into a calculator or did the math and you recognize that my bulbs now are 17.7 repeating. But let's think about this in context of my problem. I'm talking about the number of bulbs. Can I have 0.7 of a bulb? No, I have to have a whole number of bulbs. But if I round this up, I'm going to get 17.7 rounds to 18 bulbs. But 18 bulbs is going to put me over the amount of dollars that I have to work with. So the maximum number of bulbs that I can order with $18.50 is going to be 17. Because I have to round down because I have to stay within this budget. And if I go up to 18 bulbs, it's going to end up throwing off my money because of the cost of each bulb. So I have to keep it within the $18.50 to work with, which means I have to look at this number and say this isn't really a great number. This isn't the ideal number for my situation here. 17.7. I can't have 0.7. I can't have 7/10 of a bulb. I either have a whole bulb or none at all. So the maximum number I can order is 17. This should be your final answer. So let's see how well you understood this process. I'd like you to check your understanding on page 30 of your note-taking guide. Look at the bottom section right under this problem we worked. If iris bulbs are on sale for 60 cents per bulb, how many can you order? See if you can put together an equation for me, solve it for the number of bulbs, and make sure that your answer makes sense in terms of whole bulbs that you can order. Show me your work and put your answer in the number 1 section of Check Understanding, page 30. Thank you guys, good job, and I will see you in class in the morning.